just told my mom, I don't know what just fell. I just told my mom the saying that a cold baby will cry, a hot baby will die, which rhymes, right? She looked at me and said, "Shu al hakiyat, yee," and that means like, what is this talk? Like, this is nonsense. But it reminded me of the little girl that passed away in Arizona, Lake Havasu, with the mom that went swimming, and the daughter was on the boat in the heat, and my heart breaks for her. I can only imagine like what that family's going through, and honestly, a lot of people are attacking her for being neglectful. I mean, people do make mistakes, but honestly, that's kind of a big one, in my opinion. I don't think I could ever leave Taj on a boat alone in general, but actually, I would never leave him on a boat. But I guess my thought process is the baby died, passed away because of being overheated, and it was very sad. And that's why you should always make sure your babies are in cooler conditions, even in the house, right? Just make sure they're not over wearing their clothes, or they're wearing too heavy clothing in bed, or just wearing blankets in bed that are too making them hot, just all those kinds of things. And I said that saying to my mom, and she really looked at me like I was crazy. But I remember my sister taught me that when I first had Taj, and she said, don't give him a blanket inside the house, indoor. And she said, always told me, you remember that saying every time. So a lot of you guys have been wondering how my breastfeeding journey is going. And it is stressful, man. Okay? I am definitely stressed. I mean, it just depends on my day, right? Like, I could have a good day, all right? I've had worse days, but I could have a good day where Taj doesn't get any formula at all. And it could be, honestly, a straight 2 weeks like that. And then, there'll be a day where I don't eat as much, or I forget to pump in the night. Like, I'll forget one pump session. And if I do that, well, then we're short a bottle. And if we're short a bottle, then he gets formula, which is totally fine. So I've been doing that. But I've been pumping, and it's way better now. My supply is way better now than it was before. Like, pumping has actually helped me not give him as much formula. So, like, the most I've had to give him is a bottle. And I'm comfortable doing that versus having to give him, like, multiple bottles a day when my supply just needs a little bit of pump, So the biggest issue with pumping is making sure that you're getting everything out in order to pump your supply, basically. And the pump that worked the best for me was actually the Spectra S1 pump, right? Not the S2, it's the S1. I think it's their older model that's like better. I'm not exactly sure why, but it's crazy because I was using those fancy LV pumps. Like, I had to have them replaced twice, okay? And it hasn't even been 6 months since I've been on this breastfeeding journey. So I'm not a big fan of the LV. It does not get everything out. It's not a strong suction. The Spectra, though, top notch, okay? And I think that's like one of the older school ones. You definitely can be hands-free with it, but I mean, I've never been hands-free with it. It really just takes like 5 minutes out of my day to pump every 2 hours versus the LV would be like 30 minutes straight. It's so much easier now. I don't know why it's so much easier to use it. It does the job way faster, in my opinion. And honestly, my milk supply has increased since I started using this pump. So I highly recommend it. Somebody once told me, if it's not broken, don't fix it. And that's why I like the older pumps more, because honestly, they were never broken. Okay, and they do a way better job than these newer hands-free pumps that are portable or whatever. Like, don't get me wrong. I think if I was traveling out of the country, or out of the state and I needed a pump, the LV would be my go-to. But I'm going to expect that my supply is going to probably decrease a little bit here and there. However, with the Spectra S1, I mean, I took that to up north with me, which was about, like a 7-hour drive. And honestly, like, I didn't have any problems taking it with me. It's kind of heavy and bulky, sure, but it was in the car. I was chilling. It's not a problem for me. Yeah, do I prefer it to be like totally hands-free and not having to carry this big old portable thing with me? Yeah, I mean, obviously that would be ideal, but then it's not going to be as powerful either, because you need the power bank basically to be very strong. And the only way to do that is if it's this jumbo thing. But Who knows? Maybe down the road they'll invent something that's way better and way stronger than both. And a lot of you asked me how was traveling with Taj for the very first time. Look at my experience was a little stressful in the beginning. I know what not to do now. It was a short trip, but it was a trial. It was a trial run, a test run, I like to call it, and I think it's gonna prepare me for next time, right? First mistake I made was packing the same day. Okay, it took me 4 freaking hours. He is not even 6 months. He just turned 6 months. Like what? Why does this baby? Why does it take me 4 months, 4 hours, 4 months, 4 hours to freaking pack a baby, a 6 month old? It takes a long time and nobody tells you that. So don't pack the same day or even the night before. Try to pack a few days before, even a week before. That's going to be more ideal. That's what I've learned from this little short trip. So I like to call it a learning experience more than a good experience. And will I do it again? Heck yeah. Like the first day was stressful, and one other piece of advice is take your own cleaning tools when you travel. Like we did not take a dish cleaner. I don't know why we didn't think about that. It didn't cross my mind. Had I packed a few days before, I probably would have remembered. But you have to take a pump cleaner with you. You definitely don't have to take a crib with you, but it was helpful the first night. I put him in the crib at the hotel. He was a little distracted by it. It took him a little longer to go to sleep. But I think I want to give this another try where I go on another trip and don't take his crib and see how well he does. But I've heard other people tell me that they prefer taking their own crib. So, like, I just kind of want to give this another test run and see how he does. But I did do one night with the crib, one night without. The second night, he took a little longer to go to sleep. Oh, and also, before I had Taj, me and Kareem would bounce a lot with hotels and traveling. We did that during this trip because everything was booked up for July 4th weekend. And honestly, like my dad had a lot to do with it because he didn't want to book earlier in advance. So we ended up losing 2 nights at the hotel we wanted to stay at. We only got to stay one night. So honestly, if I could go back in time, I wouldn't listen to my dad. I would just book in advance. But my point is, it's so hard to book 2 different hotels when you're with a baby. It's fine if you're staying at each hotel for at least 2 nights, but staying at one hotel for one night, unpacking, and then like repacking, it took us an hour. And I told Kareem, I'm like, oh my goodness, I remember before Taj, we would literally bounce from hotel to hotel. It would take us like 10 minutes to repack. It didn't take nowhere near as long. And with the baby crying or whining over your head, like one of you has to watch him while you pack, it took a little longer. And it takes away from your day, like it's just not ideal, to be honest. Stay at the same hotel for the whole trip, or just try to stay at very minimal amount of hotels. You don't want to just like bounce day after day. That's very hard for me. So that's another thing I don't think I'd want to repeat. Overall, my child, alhamdulillah, did so well. I cannot complain about him, alhamdulillah. Like, he makes me so happy. But to be honest, being in the car for as long as he was, I was so surprised at how well he did. He was only fussy, I would say, for like 20 minutes for each car ride, like the way there and the way back. And it was because like the milk bottle wasn't ready, and then I'd have to kneel over him and feed him, and that wasn't ideal. So that was the only thing I didn't like. Otherwise, I pumped the entire trip. I even used the hydro flasks to storage my milk. I don't know if you guys saw in Cream Snap, but I never had to use those frozen bags before, but I used them this time. And I would dump my milk in that with the ice in the hydro flask. So I would dump my milk in the frozen breast milk bags, and then I would seal them, put them in the hydro flask. I could put like 2 or 3 at once, and I'd fill them up with like 2 to 4 ounces, and I would stuff them in there, and I'd put ice all around it, and then it stayed cool like for the entire trip, which was so nice because I had milk in my fridge before I left, and I'm like, I am not leaving these behind. These are gold. And I didn't want them to go bad either. So I recommend the hydro flask trick. I mean, I definitely recommend it. I'm sure they have better coolers out there, but low-key, the hydro flask was nice because it just like hooked onto his stroller perfectly, and I could take it everywhere with me. So I think I'd do it again if we travel abroad as well. But I think, honestly, kids will tend to do better on road trips in general because they like the motion of the car, right? It kind of like it soothes them, I think, in some way. I mean, my son, he he doesn't like the car seat, but he likes the car moving, so that's helpful. And I think it's a little bit easier than getting on a plane. He is going to travel in a plane very soon, and I don't know how I feel about that. But I'll keep you guys posted on how well he does, and I will definitely share those experiences with you guys.